It's a brand new year of Brawl Stars, and if last year is anything to go by, this year we are going to get a slew of new amazing brawlers. I, for one, cannot wait to see what Supercell have got in store for us in 2021, but first, I want to take a look back at my favorite brawlers released in 2020. And before we start, please don't get mad if my opinion is different to yours. We're all allowed to have opinions on the internet, right? First, here's a quick run through of each brawler that came out in 2020. Mr. P came out in January, then Jackie in March, Sprout in April, Gale in May, Nani in June, Surge in July, Colette in September, Amber in October, Lou in November, and finally, Byron and Edgar in December. And I'm going to be real. I think every brawler that came out this year is awesome in its own way. There are some really cool ideas and concepts that we're going to dive into soon. So let's waste no more time and get straight to my number 5. My number 5 pick is Sprout. Have you ever wanted to just annoy your enemies into submission? Of course, I am being a little facetious. Sprout's super hedge is extremely unique and, when utilized well, very powerful. But seriously, who hasn't gotten frustrated at one point or another by a hedge in the opponent's goal, or by being trapped in a corner while the Sprout is free to attack you with his seed bomb? For a very long time, Sprout was one of the most powerful brawlers in the game, frequently used and also banned in esports. This is partly due to the strength of Sprout's photosynthesis star power, granting him a shield whenever he has recently been inside a bush. This makes Sprout extremely tanky, versatile, and a great pick to carry gems in gem grab. Sprout, like quite a few other brawlers on my top 5 list, is on this list through merit of being so dramatically different to everything else that's been on offer so far. Sprout was a hugely creative addition to the roster from Supercell, but their creativity had only just gotten started. Before we go any further though, I've got to remind you to please consider supporting me with creator code Falcone. My creator code and this YouTube channel are both super important to me this year, so you'd be doing me a huge favor by using the code and of course subscribing for more content. Like the video if you enjoy what you're seeing. Let's get back to it. Number 4. One of the more ordinary brawlers on my list, but one of my personal favorites, it's Nani. Nani's mechanics aren't particularly wild, but they are quite different. Her regular attack, Trigonometry, shoots 3 individual projectiles with a bit of a strange curvature. The arc of the shot varies depending on how far Nani aims, and all of this combines to make for a very interesting aiming experience. Short enclosed corridor? Better aim short to prevent the 2 outside shots from hitting the wall. There's a lot to think about and a lot of damage to be dealt, as if Nani hits with all 3 projectiles, she deals a whopping 2,940 damage. That's significant, and she can fire very quickly. This ironically leads Nani to be very powerful when getting up close and personal, as well as at a distance. Now, I'd be remiss to talk about Nani without mentioning her super, Manual Override. She takes control of Peep, and while Nani is completely vulnerable herself, she controls Peep and can blow up the enemy team. This is particularly strong with the star powers. With Tempered Steel, Nani gets an 80% shield. She can stand in front of the enemy siege bot and tank damage for ages, slowing it down. But more importantly, Autofocus causes Peep to deal an extra 2,500 damage based on travel distance, meaning that at a maximum, it deals 5,300 damage. That is enough to one-shot most brawlers. When combined with Bo and his Super Totem gadget, a brand new meta formed on Bounty, where players would play Nani with autofocus, they'd play Bo in order to charge Nani's super, and they'd play Mortis to block enemy peeps and prevent them from destroying your Nani. It was quite the meta changer, and this was all made possible thanks to Nani. My number 3 pick, and again, this one is based on uniqueness, is Byron. Unlike the other brawlers, his regular attack, Careful Dose, doesn't go through teammates. It actually hits and collides with them and heals them over time. It's so hard to tell what sort of impact he's going to have, though on day of release, pro player Spen announced that he thought Byron might be the best brawler in the game. Now, Byron hasn't been around for very long, and at the time of recording this video, there haven't really been any esports tournaments where players have been allowed to use him, at least not many. We've seen from Crow, Primo, and Amber that damage over time is extremely powerful, as it prevents enemies' regen from kicking in for quite some time. But healing over time is very strong too. Hitting a friendly tank 3 times before they charge into battle can grant a huge advantage in the fight. His super, full treatment, heals all teammates and damages all enemies in a small radius by an instant 2,100, which is crazy when used effectively. And with the star power, it slows down enemy healing too. Byron is a complete beast on the battlefield, and I cannot wait to see what happens with him in esports in this coming year of 2021. And of course, a big shout out to Edgar. Didn't quite make it on my list, but is insane, especially when it comes to Showdown, Present Plunder, and Brawl Ball. Him and that jump, man. I mean, also, let's have a quick side note, like Edgar with the brand new meta where there were 2 or 3 brawlers that were the same in every composition for about a week. Crazy. Number 2. Now, I can't mention Brawlers released in 2020 without mentioning Colette, who completely shook up the meta with her anti-tank attack, Taxing Shot. Colette's whole shtick is that she deals damage as a percentage of the opponent's health, rather than a flat number. So she is fantastic against brawlers that have more health. Her release really hurt brawlers like Frank and El Primo, as they essentially lose one of their strongest features when against Colette. While Colette wasn't played a huge amount in esports last year, she was often picked as a one-off surprise pick. And that fact alone meant that it was very risky to ever play a composition that was weak against her. Colette was a fantastic counter pick, and her impact on the meta without even being hugely played was palpable. A worthy contender for my list, for sure. Before we get to number 1, here are some quick honorable mentions. Firstly, Surge, the brawler who upgrades every time you use his super. How cool is that? And to tie a little ribbon on this brawler, the super that upgrades him is also a jump that you can use to dodge attacks, and also an attack in its own right that can cancel and interrupt other brawlers' supers. Really cool. And Amber, who was so deadly when she was released. Easily the most powerful brawler released in 2020, before she eventually got nerfed and then nerfed again. Quite badly. But now, number 1, my favorite brawler released in 2020, and currently my favorite brawler in the game is Lou. This one's funny, because if you watched my original video on Lou, where I had a little go at him on pre-release on the dev build, you'll notice that I wasn't a big fan. He seemed very weak and underwhelming to me. Well, one quick buff later, and Lou is a machine. He freezes opponents so quickly with his regular attack, Brain Freeze, whilst also dealing a significant amount of damage. But what I really like about Lou is his super, Can Do. Lou's super places freezing cold syrup over a large portion on the ground, causing all enemies inside to slip and slide around with very little control over their own movement. This ability is insane in so many situations, whether you want to prevent the other team from defending their goal in Brawl Ball, slow down their escape with the gems in Gem Grab, or, my personal favourite, confusing the heck out of the Siege bot in Siege. It's no secret that Siege is my favorite mode to play in Brawl Stars, and, well, Lou's super ability is absolutely insane in this game mode, as it confuses the Siege bot, causing it to just walk into walls endlessly. It is utterly busted. Lou is the best Siege brawler, hands down, and one of the most creative additions that Supercell has added this year. With this new freeze mechanic, I cannot help but wonder how Lou will perform in esports this year, and what Supercell will come up with next. Well, there you have it. That is my opinion on the top 5 brawlers released in 2020. How well does my opinion line up with your own? Let me know in the comments below. If you've watched up until this point of the video, firstly, thank you. And secondly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, as I'm going to be throwing so much content at you this year. You don't want to miss any of it. Finally, consider supporting me with creator code Falcone. If you don't want to use creator code Falcone, that's fine. Make sure you use somebody's. These codes really help us creators out, and it's completely free for you, so consider using that. Thank you very much. And now, most importantly, keep on brawling.